Hi everyone, it's Tony Campbell here, the Property QS, and welcome to our last video in this sequence talking about how to properly define the scope of your project. So today, as I mentioned in the previous video, I'm going to be talking about the schedule of works and why the schedule of works is so vitally important when you're doing any property refurbishment project, in reality, any project whatsoever. So the schedule of works is where all of your hard work culminates. It's where you write down all of the work required that you want the builder to price for you, or the tradesman to price for you if you go into individual trades. So this document then becomes the basis of the estimate. It becomes the basis of how you compare the contractor quotations for each other. So it's pretty important. And then what happens is the contractor you choose, most likely this will also form part of the contractual documentation as well. So this will be an attachment to the contract. So it's important that you get it right, and it's important that you do it properly to make sure you're covered. So I'll run you through our template schedule of works that we use at the Property QS, and we also teach to our mentees so they have access to this too. This is just a blank version, but I'll talk you through exactly what goes in each of the sections so you can see what each is and how important it is. So we'll start at the beginning. This is just a summary page where we sum up the cost of the schedule of works here. So this will just sum up all the costs that you get back from each individual contractor. Okay, first section's we call the general section. It's really more like preambles to the contract. So under CDM, you have to provide a pre-construction information document. And what we try to do is cover all of the information in the pre-construction information document here in the schedule of works. So we're not producing multiple documents when we don't really need to. So pretty simply, we go through the documentation. So first we have the drawings. So literally you list the drawings you have there. Your specification, you put a reference to that document there. And we've already talked about specification, so you know exactly what one of those is. Any surveys you've had done, whether that be asbestos, damp, or whatever it may be, you'll definitely have an asbestos one. And then anything else that you've got, any other information you can provide to the contractors so they can give you the most accurate price they possibly can. Okay, so then the project details, you enter the client's details here, and that's the name and the company. Again, the principal designer, so the person who's responsible for the project in the pre-construction phase is the principal designer, and you'll put their name here. The principal contractor, you're not going to know that yet when you're going out to get a price. So usually we put TBC, and then that gets overwritten with the name of the successful contractor. What contract you're using, we'll tell you all about that in our training program. Liquidated damages, again, we'll explain what those are, but they're almost like a stick, as it were, to try and get the contractor to deliver on time. And by stick, I mean something that you beat the contractor with, figuratively, obviously not literally. The defects liability period, so usually that'll be a period of time that the contractor has to make good any defects that occur in the finished project. So usually 6 months or 12 months is the standard. Any retention, that retention is linked to the defects liability period, but we're not going to go into that here. The program that you've set out, so the schedule, how long the project's going to take, any key dates, the address of the project, access restrictions, so are there any restrictions to the site working hours, any parking arrangements. If you've had to go through planning, you might have some planning constraints. The details of the welfare units, of what you're expecting the contractor to provide, or what you're providing if you're providing the welfare. The requirements for personal protective equipment, PPE, on site. Waste disposal, so where the skip's going to be located, and do you have any specific requirements for them? So if you're in a town and it's on a main road, you might want to put a lid on them so you don't end up with a full skip before you've put any rubbish in it yourself. And then finally, any health and safety hazards. And that usually will come from the designer's risk assessment, which the principal designer would go through. If all of that, so talking about the designer's risk assessment. If you've never come across that before, then that's something definitely I'd recommend you get educated on, and we've got a whole module on it in our training program. Next is the prelims, so the preliminary costs associated with the work. You can see what they are. We've got project and site management, if they've got any of that. The requirements for progress updates, so monthly site meetings, weekly progress photographs, anything else. The welfare requirements that you're asking for or that are needed. Waste disposal, so the skips costs. Access equipment, small tools and equipment, and then any health and safety documents which are required as part of the project. This is something I get to miss quite a lot, the health and safety file and the handover documentation, and you obviously need them because when the contractor finishes on site, the last thing you want is for all of the documents that they've got to walk away with them, because if you've had an oven installed, hob installed, you need all the operating instructions for them. And all the test certificates for the electric and the gas and everything to get building regulations sign off. So now on to the most important bit. This is the measured works. So in here you'd put all the works that was required, and you can see it's split by our WBS. So the WBS underpins the schedule of works because that's how your project will be broken down. And we just got a section for each of the WBS headings, and then you're free to enter the details that you've got in here. And then obviously as part of our training program, we talk through the items that go in here and how to measure them, so it makes it easier for you. So mechanical, you might have the boiler, the radiators, the bathrooms, and so on and so forth. And that's the measured works. And then finally, the last sheet, something that quite often gets forgotten, schedules of works, is a schedule of rates. And the reason why you want to, so basically what you're doing here is you're asking the builder or contractor to be upfront and honest about the rates that they charge for labour, management, any equipment, the welfare, the access equipment, and then any markup that they would propose to add. Because if anything changes in your project and you have a variation, you've already got the list of rates here, so the contractors can't take advantage of the fact that you've got a variation, because you would have negotiated and agreed these rates and markups up front. So, if they come to you and say they want a 30% markup on materials, equipment and subcontractors, you'd probably want to renegotiate that down to maybe 10 or 15%, so when there's a variation or a change that you're only going to pay a fair and reasonable amount for the extra work. And they're not going to use that as the opportunity to make as much money as they can from you as a property investor. Okay, so in a nutshell, that's a schedule of works. And as I said, the detail of filling that in, we do cover in our training program. And that's the end of our email sequence and video series about educating you on how to fully define the scope of your project. And we've obviously only just touched the surface of the detail you need here. Hopefully it's given you an insight into what you do need, and it's given you the ability to go away and do this on your own if you so want to. However, if you want somebody to hold you accountable and you want somebody to help you through this process, because it's complicated if you've never done it before, someone to answer all the questions you might have, then as I said, we do have a training program, and you'll be shortly receiving some emails about the opportunity to join us in our program if you want to. Okay, well, thanks for listening, and hopefully I'll get to speak to you very soon. Thanks very much.